So good morning, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of Startup Speakers, Wednesday, March 10th, 2021. I'm glad to see all of you here today. Today, before we kick things off, I'd like to introduce our guest, Elvira. Hi, Elvira. Nice to see you. Can you give us a quick introduction and tell us what brought you here today?
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you for having me. I was enjoying coming to your previous meetings. I like the way you hold the meetings and the topic you're discussing, the speeches. So I want to just continue this experience and stick with you. Thank you. Back to you.
You're welcome. Well, thank you, Elvira. So today, our meeting theme is springing forward into March 2021. The reason why I picked this theme today was that this weekend, it will be the start of daylight savings time. And of course, it's springing forward, so March brings the promise of spring. And I thought that this is probably a good time to take stock of where your year is going, because this is almost the end of the first quarter, and you get an opportunity to say, hey, how are my goals, whatever, if I had any New Year resolutions, how are they doing? What can I do to make recalibration? And so one thing that I would like all of you to take from this meeting, that, you know, at the end of, with the start of daylight savings time, we'll have a lot more daylight hours. And I hope that whatever we decide to do, if we decide to recalibrate or maybe get some new resolutions, we get an opportunity to think about them and to make an extra resolve to to getting those goals achieving those goals. With that, I'm going to call on some duty masters. We do need some volunteers. I need a volunteer for an odd counter. I think I'll take the odd counter then. Do we have, so as odd counter, my job is to count the number of ahs and ums and repeated words. I'll report back at the end of the meeting, and I will let you know how the odd counter, how many ahs we actually repeated. I guess for some reason I seem to be doing most of the ahs today. Our next role is timer.
Yes, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmaster, most welcome guest. My function is timer, which is to run the clock in one of the squares in the grid view. And I just want to confirm everyone's speeches is 5 to 7 minutes. Jose, yours as well. And then, so at 5 minutes, the green light will come on, 6 minutes yellow, and then at 7 minutes, the red light, and the speaker has 30 seconds to finish. Evaluation is 2 to 3 minutes. And then table topics 1 to 2 minutes. I'll report the time at the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Our next role is Wordmaster. Can anyone volunteer for a Wordmaster? Wordmaster, does anyone have a word?
I can look for a word. Just give me a minute.
Okay.
Oops. Okay. All right.
Our next role, we'll come back to the Wordmaster in a few minutes. Our next role is the Grammarian. I'll take on the role as Grammarian.
I can also take it, Haroon, if you need me to.
Oh, okay. Well, because you're going to be speaking. Okay, fine. Zaina, our role as a Grammarian will be Zaina. Go ahead, Zaina.
As the grammarian today, I'll be looking at the use of the English language and both quality and perhaps areas of improvement for the use of the English language. And we'll be giving feedback on that at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Zainab. As ballot counter, we'll be relying on Google to count the ballots, and we'll be at the end of the meeting, after the speeches and the evaluations and the table topics, we'd like to sort of, I'll send out the link for ballots, and I'll so that we can all vote on who we think the best speaker was. It's not really, and I'll let you know what the who the winners are at the end of the meeting. As video master, I'll be recording the videos, the video of the meeting. It's basically Zoom. If you do not wish to be recorded, please let me know, and I'll pause the video at that time. Once the meeting is over, I'll upload it to a YouTube channel and send out the link and on WhatsApp. Thank you. Now, before we get started, I'd like to...
I do have a word of the day.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, Georgie.
Okay. So as the person who will be listening for the word of the day, the word master for today, I have chosen as our word of the day, meticulous. It's been sent out in chat. You should be seeing it. Means marked by extreme or excessive care in the consideration or treatment of details. Please try to use this word when you are speaking, if you do get a chance to speak today. There is no fine with not using the word, but I will keep a running tab of who I hear use the word, and I will report at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Georgie. Now, just to be meticulous about the speakers and their evaluations, I just want to make sure that they're all aligned. Jose, our general evaluator is Gautam, who will be evaluating the whole meeting. Jose will be evaluated by Wai Ming. Zaina will be evaluated by Gautam. And Wai Ming, who's the third speaker, will be evaluated by any volunteers? Georgie? Thank you. So with that, I think we're going to come to, let's kick off our prepared speeches section. Our first speaker of the day is Jose. He'll be talking to us about a topic called spiritual well-being. Jose has spoken about this topic quite a number of times. He has explored this topic in a number on different topics related to the same, to spirituality and meditation. And it's always a great experience listening to him and tell us about his research. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, let's welcome Jose.
Thank you. Thank you, Toastmaster Haroon. This speech is part of my ongoing series on spiritual well-being. Oh, it doesn't move forward. Let me see. Does it move? Oh, does it work? You can see my screen, right? Let me see. Oh, for some reason it locks. Oh, there it is. It doesn't show though. Sorry about that. It doesn't move. Oh, there you go. Okay. So the book source I have for this is general resource, which is Waking Up to the Fifth Dimension by Maureen St. Germain. The idea being, the main idea of the book is ascension of spiritual awareness, from being aware of yourself, society, having a definition of a spiritual belief, and then how you fit into the general movement or development of the world and how you fit in it. So that's pretty much the main idea behind being on the fifth dimension. But on this talk, I'll be talking about how you build your spiritual beliefs. It's a very, very important topic. And let me see. First of all, ooh, how come it's moving fast? Too fast. Sorry, there's a delay in my. Okay, so. Okay, first of all, you develop a sense of what to you is a supreme being. And how do you do that? It is done by modeling, by developing a body of knowledge, and a way to maintain it. First of all, modeling. Everybody knows celebrities, and we tend to gravitate towards their qualities, certain qualities within them. So as long as you maintain that identity, your adaptations of the qualities, that'll be okay. Heroes, historical figures, we could do that too. We can have, for example, I had a picture of Abe Lincoln. There's certain qualities of Abe Lincoln that we wanna incorporate into our lives and do that as something to motivate you. And also, it's nice to have something beyond all that. Basically, some kind of an angelic or a saint person that you can imitate or emulate. You can do that. It doesn't have to be very very meticulous, right? In your analysis, as long as you understand that these are things I respect. Once you have that identity, you move on to, or you, this another aspect is developing a body of knowledge. Incorporate science and philosophy. I believe in all incorporating knowledge, not just religion, but also science. Science, philosophy, read up on a lot of books. I had an illustration there of libraries. Be well rounded. Know society's laws, know higher sacred scriptures, and there'll be later on I'll cover how to choose what you would rather have, and it's up to you. And I believe that whatever religious beliefs you gravitate into, it's really up to you. Understand society's traditions, ethics, and norms. There's a lot of mistake within religion where you forget certain things, but to have a well-rounded belief system, you have to know all this. And then some kind of maintenance. Think of maintaining your faith. The very first thing that comes to mind is prayer and meditation. And it does help a lot. And this is one of the most important parts. In fact, of all my presentation, I think prayer and meditation is probably the most important one, because with prayer and with meditation, all those knowledges come back. Emotions are enhanced, and you actually change your mood. Even for example, I had a presentation before about morning routines, right? The meditation in the morning to change your mood is very, very important, I think. In fact, that's the most important thing. And then schooling, learn to maybe take a few courses. Retreats is very, 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 very life transformational. Everybody here has been to a retreat, like a spiritual retreat? Yes, it's very, very transformative, and it's something you will never forget. And I was very surprised. I had a treat once at in a mountain resort where it's like a week of just meditating. All that, it helps a lot. And also find a place where you can join other people with the same beliefs. Fellowship is very important. Also, there is society has to support you also, as the same thing as you are supporting society. So the most important element of well-being, it is the most important spiritual, because like I said, it recharges your life. uh, Join time-tested large organizations, do your research, be patient, it takes time. The main idea is improving your behavior. And for example, if there's certain vice or bad habit you're trying to avoid, right? It will correct that. There may be a relapse, but always be committed to it. That's the major point. And the concept of religion, actually, and spiritual beliefs should also support other aspects of your life. For example, your physical aspect, how you manage time, emotional, mental, and how you organize your life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jose. If you can take a moment to give some feedback to Jose. Minute 2. Thank you. So with that, I'd like to move on to our next speech. Our next speaker is our newest member, Zaina. Zaina has already taken off to a great start. She's already on her 3rd speech, I believe. And today she's going to be doing a research topic on the saga of Wall Street bets.
I will actually be doing a research topic about the art of humor.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You're all good. You're all good.
The art of humor, because apparently the topic was not updated, so I was a little thrown off by that. I apologize. Today, Zaina will be talking about the art of humor.
Hello, fellow Toastmasters. Today, I'd like to talk about something that has plagued me since childhood. Something that always seems to go right over my head and makes everyone else around me laugh. That's right, the art of humor. Comedy. It's something that has always seemed to escape me. And for a long time, I believed that being funny is something that you either were or you weren't. And it was pretty clear which side of the line I fell on. But as I've gotten older, it's become apparent to me through things like the growth mindset that perhaps I could learn how to be funny. And so I decided that through my Toastmasters journey, I would learn to be funny. I told that to all of my friends and they laughed. I don't know if it's exactly for the right reasons, but I decided to count it as my first laugh anyways. And started researching what it is that famous comedians do in order to be funny. So I got on my TV and I started looking at Taylor Tomlinson's Quarter-Life Crisis, which is presented on Netflix. Now, Taylor Tomlinson is a 25-year-old woman. So I was really excited to see someone, of my own style. There's pretty good research out there that men and women have different comedic styles, so I was ready. But I turned on Taylor Tomlinson, and I come from a pretty sheltered background, so it was a bit shocking to me. There were a lot of jokes that weren't exactly PG-13, and so I'm not sure that's going to be my style. But I did learn a number of interesting things from her, such as how she uses her body. She comes all the way down into the ground, she stands up on her tiptoes. All of these kinds of movements, when she uses them to accentuate what she's saying, can be really effective and really funny. Further, she is shameless. She'll talk about things in front of a live audience that I wouldn't talk about with my brother. But there's something about that shamelessness that's funny. After that, I switched over to watching John Mulaney. John Mulaney's New in Town is another Netflix special, and he talks about different kinds of perspectives. You see, it's not important that you're telling your own story, but rather that you're telling your own perspective on a story. That's what keeps stories from being offensive. And because you're telling a story about another human, either yourself or somebody else, that's what makes it relatable. Also, he has this ability to use his face to really change the emphasis of what he's saying. For example, I could say, "Oh, why man, you look great today." Or I could say, ah, Wai Ming, you look great today. These have really different meanings, right? And although I believe Wai Ming always looks great, I think the point was emphasized nonetheless. So I decided to start going into my life to try and see what it was I could do to learn how to be funny. So I sat down at my computer the other day and started working on it. And my boyfriend comes over and he says, Zaina, what are you doing? And I said, learning how to be funny. He says, from a textbook? All of my friends laughed when I told them I was trying to learn comedy from a textbook too. I counted that as my second laugh. The thing is, textbooks are how I've learned everything else in my life. Calculus, how to read, how to play the flute. So I thought I could probably do humor from a textbook also. I decided to look up The Fundamentals of Humor by Joe Janes. Joe Janes is a professor at the University of Columbia in Chicago. And he talks about a variety of different techniques and ideas throughout this textbook. And one of those is that he says that humor is a conversation primarily. Your goal is to take something that happened to you, someone you know, and contextualize it in context of the general human experience in such a way that could be funny to anybody. And it's this context that really makes a joke. He also said that jokes often require a lot of iteration. It's the content, you just have to produce a lot of it in order to come up with anything meaningful. And I have to tell you, that made me feel a lot better because I have gone through a decent bit of content for this speech. It's not even that funny. But if it's iteration that makes something funny, that means it's a learned skill. That means it's a skill derived from practice. So that was really encouraging to me. And I continued to read my textbook because I knew I could do it and I was going to figure it out. But by the time I got to the end of the textbook, it was then time for me to go and try and write this speech about comedy and think about other kinds of things. So I went into my room and I closed the door and I started thinking. And I started thinking about what to say. And I thought some more. And then this strong, independent woman who doesn't need no man went back out into the living room to ask her man for some help. You see, my boyfriend, who'd been laughing at me from trying to learn comedy from a textbook, was also a musical theater major during college, which meant he actually had some training in what it meant to be funny. He had a lot of great advice for me, but the first one was that in order to be funny, you have to think you're funny. And this, I think, is one of the biggest barriers that I have to overcome. I've never identified as funny, and it's something that I'm interested in achieving as I go throughout this Toastmasters process. One small joke hidden in a speech at a time. So next time I try and tell a joke to my friends, they'll all laugh, but for the right reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Zaina. If you can, everybody can take a minute to give Zaina some feedback. Our next speaker is Wai Ming Mak. Wyoming is a prolific speaker and researcher and has covered so many topics that I've lost count. Wyoming actually puts that adage that practice and quantity always works and generates quality. And ladies and gentlemen, today is just another example of of putting into practice that mantra. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, let's welcome Wyoming Mock.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be talking about a particular topic. It starts with this statement: my imagination is limited by what I know, by Avi Loeb. Very simple idea, I think. The idea is what you know would allow you to imagine what's possible. And then if you were to pursue that, then you can maybe identify which one of the possibilities would be real. And then you learn more and then go from there to have further imagination. That's how supposedly man has evolved. So I'm going to tell stories around fire and water, 4 stories, and might not have that much time for each story. So very quickly, one story about fire and water is what early man, when they first saw fire and water, they created stories around these things. They imagined gods around them. And one of the culture, of course, is the Greek culture, and they have a god for water, Poseidon, and a god for fire, Hestia. And they were born as brothers and sisters, but they were eaten by their father because he had some prophecy that they were going to kill him. But their mother hid their brother Zeus from the father, and Zeus grew up, and eventually helped them came back into life and vanquished their father. So the whole story, this story helped, along with other stories in the Greek culture, cement the Greek culture. And that separates the Greek culture from other cultures, Chinese culture, Japanese cultures, other European culture, Jewish culture, and so on. And that's how nations are formed in terms of from stories. Another idea is with water and heat from the fire, you can cook things, and you have diseases that are prevented because of that. And from there, it evolved over time into agriculture and transportation. And in the last several centuries, we have grew significantly in terms of the economy and in the abstract sense, wealth for individuals and for people. So from food, making from fire and water, you grew economy and wealth. More interesting, in the recent 100 years, there are 2 events that are interesting, so I'm going to talk briefly about them. One of them is the idea that if, and people discovered structured DNA around the 1950s, and they did, in the 1980s, they found this guy, Kerry Mullis, thought about this and imagined what's possible and thought about it. But eventually they found that when you heat water to 98 degrees, the double strand of DNA split into 2. And then when you lower the temperature and you add these primers, they start the process of replicating. And then you raise temperature to 70 degrees, add in ingredients, it doubles into 2 strands of DNA. This process changes from 1 strand of DNA to 2. You repeat it, you go from 2 to 4. You repeat it many times. In 45 minutes, you can repeat it 40 times. You make 1 trillion copies. So very simple idea that people imagined just recently. And because of this PCR capability, people were able to understand COVID very quickly and develop the COVID vaccine within a year's time. And if you can imagine what you could do with this information, you can with this knowledge, because then you can modify DNA, you can cure diseases, and it would lead to maybe further life beyond 100 years, beyond 120, and maybe even longer. Last story, in the last 100 years, people understood what's happening from the knowledge of what's happening in a star. You have lots of hydrogen atoms, and they come together over millions of years. And because they got so close that fused together through nuclear fusion, 2 hydrogen atoms actually more than 2, but into a helium atom. And then those helium atoms over time could actually fuse into a carbon atom. And then the carbon can fuse into oxygen and other elements over a long course of time. Understanding that is important because now people can imagine as the oxygen comes out of the stars for whatever reason, they got blew out, they just diffuse out, they can combine with the hydrogen in space, and together they form water. And from that imagination, just at night, you go out into a dark area where there's no city light and you look up. Every one of those points is a star. There is water associated with those stars because they were formed there. And the possibility of life is there. So the whole point is from different types of knowledge, there's so many with human history, no one person can understand it all. But from that, people develop imagination of what's possible, do more about it, and then that grew into other types of abstractions, whether it's water and fire into stories, into nations, or the idea of water is created in the stars and maybe beings come out of that, and life everywhere in the universe, who knows? And many other ideas. So the question for you is your imagination limited by what you know? Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Wei-Ming. If you can take a minute to write some feedback for Wei-Ming. That I'd like to get to the evaluation section for all our speeches. And our general evaluator today is Gautam.
Thank you, Harold. Thank you, speakers today. It was really insightful and really great to hear different thoughts, different perspectives from a spiritual, from a reality, from a comedy perspective. It was really good one. Let's welcome our evaluator of our first speaker. Evaluator for first speaker, Jose, is Wei-Ming.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmaster, most welcome guest, and especially Jose. Jose, that was a very good speech because it was very well organized, and most of the slides are very clear, and that was very good. And you delivered the speech in very calm fashion, and I understood everything. It's very good. So in terms of the slides that you have well organization. You talk about the idea of modeling, knowledge, and maintenance. And each one of those has simple slides. Each slide has around 3 or 4 bullets with some pictures. So very clear. And I get it, that this is a well-organized speech because of that. And also, some area that you might want to improve on is the last slide with the summary, that there were too many words. Yeah, so it's more like just simplifying those words into, maybe I would suggest 3 bullets, because in the summary, you just want to get some ideas across. You don't want to get lots of bullets across. And just summarize, either summarize it, modeling, knowledge, or maintenance, or something else, and just use 3 words. And it's easier for people to remember that way anyway. But so that's a suggestion. You can do whatever you want. And also the other thing is, you had a fairly monotone way of speaking. Consider adding more vocal variety. And also tell a story. Tell a story around whether it's modeling or knowledge. A fuller story around that would be very good. But otherwise, very well organized speech. So look forward to more speeches from you. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Remy. Let's welcome our second evaluator for our speech, Zaina. That's me. I'm going to evaluate her. Just Mr. Miller, I hear there is a noise in your speech. I'm just trying to connect with my microphone. Hopefully it should be fine.
Adam, I think we've lost you. Can you try again?
Okay, is it fine?
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Zaina, for the wonderful speech. And it was really good to have, like, you are always having a speech with a personal story or a personal experience. It will motivate the audience to connect to the speaker. And that, from that perspective, you did really well, how important it is, and how we can perceive your thoughts from your expression, from your body language, from your thought process. It was really good. You started with a very good introduction, and your vocal clarity was really good at the right space. Like when we switch from one topic to the another, when you move from one story to the other story, it was in a really good phase. However, like it would have been better when you give some few seconds to digest the content. Like, okay, we are moving from point A to point B, and how point B is connected to point A. Think from audience perspective, I feel that I would need some seconds to connect. What is the connection between these two? That would be having great. And the body language with the vocal space, both were in a sync manner. However, when you move out, some portions, like when you move from like, I would encourage you to check the video. So when you do the when you did the gesture, it got broken or truncated because you went out of the camera frame. So that would have been avoided when you practice in front of the camera. Okay, how much exposure I am having? Should I practice within this distance, or should I move out of this distance? So that would be really helpful. And your gestures and body language and your vocal clarity, it was really good. And probably like some eye contact. So when you are in a Zoom, um, I don't know how we can make more more intuitive eye contact, but it was, I feel it was better, but should have been improved. Maybe I have never seen like too much distance. Maybe the lighting conditions, it's like hindering us to have eye contact. And your comfort level, as always, it was really good. And you did a well researched topic and interest on the, like, engages with audience and communicating your thought process. Like, you did a play in that speech, like tiny speech between your different roles, like boyfriend and you like how your friend react. So that was really very well did very well done, I would say. Overall, the speech was really good. I would like to challenge yourself to practice in front of the camera and see how you perceive, especially the lighting conditions and also the gestures. Thank you. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Gavin, your
Sure. All right. Thank you. Let's welcome our third evaluator of our speech. The third evaluator is Georgie, and she will be evaluating rhyming speech. I really like the topic. My imagination is limited by what I know. I totally agree. Over to George.
Thank you very much, Gautam. Excellent speech, Mei, which is not unusual. You are a very meticulous speaker. I expect very high quality speeches from you, and I am never disappointed. Your topic today started with the point, my imagination is limited by what I know. I thought that you did a really good job, especially with your slides. I loved especially the GIF that you had with the fire. Usually we don't see a lot of moving images in our speeches, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that was a nice little change of contrast. But the slides in general were very, very good. You have really clear images. You have only a few words on every slide, and so it's very clear about what exactly you're speaking to it at that point in your talk. Now, when you started the conversation, they started the speech, you mentioned that you were going to use 4 different stories to highlight your point about your imagination is limited by what I know. And I have to admit, I kind of cringed internally because I thought, oh my goodness, because I know I can barely get one story out in 5 minutes. I didn't know how you were going to manage 4 stories in that amount of time, but you did it, and it was very impressive. You talked about 4 different things. You talked about, with respect to fire, how it led to stories, food, DNA, and being, and how that led into nations, wealth, longevity, and the concept of life. You certainly didn't miss any of the topics at all. You didn't shy away from any of these huge topics to talk about. It was very, very inspiring to see that you did that. Now, the one thing that I would suggest doing is, it seems like we're coming back to, because we're now in video, everything's coming back to the concept of you're now kind of a TV star. And so we're all kind of stuck with having to deal with production issues, not so much our speeches in general. Once again, going back to the production issue, you might want to see about doing something more to provide more lighting to your face. When you are, right now that I'm looking at you, your face is very close to camera and I can see your face. But when you were speaking, you were sitting back and everything was kind of in darkness on your face. So I couldn't see your expressions. That was a problem. The other thing I like that you did is that even though you're kind of sitting, and in theory, there shouldn't be a lot of movement, you were moving back and forth. So it kind of drew me back to looking at you instead of just focusing on the slides. I thought that was a good thing. I don't know if you were trying intentionally to add movement that way, but it worked. Another thing, like I said, going back to production values, we have this limited box and you were using good gestures, but it seemed like they were going a little quickly for the video, at least for my video resolution. And also they tended to be cut off by screen. So they were kind of like halfway down. I think you may need to either adjust the camera or raise your hands up in order to, so I can see the gesture. Now, the only thing I would have to say is when you first presented the topic you wanted to talk about, once again, this is my personal negative thing. I didn't really think of my imagination being limited to what I know, because I also include what I believe and all the other imaginary things that I've brought together is, just not just what I know. So I like the fact that you ended it with actually questioning the premise with, is your imagination limited by what you know, and having us answer that as well. I thought, once again, really well-rounded, and I am looking forward to your next speech.
Thank you, Georgie, for the great evaluation. We have our table topics for today, and our table topics master for today is Georgie. Let's welcome Georgie to have a very good, wonderful table topics for this week. Over to Georgie. Georgie, you are in mute.
Sorry about that. Like I said, production values, really difficult. So I need to see. Okay. Today's topic was about springing forward for change, basically. And I kind of focused on the changing aspect because I am very hopeful that one day I might be able to leave my apartment and see people face to face again. It is my dream, and I live for this dream. Although we have been in lockdown for going on 7 or 8 years now, I'm losing track, to be honest. With respect to that, I would like to ask you guys about some of your thoughts with change, especially with what might be coming in the next few weeks and months and things like that. Let's see. So let's start with some things that you might want to talk about that were positive for you. So what, with respect to, like I said, I am very hopeful that with the vaccine, with the spring coming on, that things will open up. Based on that, assuming that we open up in the next few weeks, do you have any plans that you're already thinking about, stuff that you really want to get back to doing and that you are like dreaming about it on a almost daily basis, like me? Anybody like to volunteer? Oh, and just to remind everyone, the word of the day is meticulous. So try to be meticulous in your answer. Would anyone like to volunteer to answer this question? Go ahead, Harun.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. My thing that I am really looking forward to is going back to the gym. I used to be a bit of a gym rat, and I would be pretty meticulous in getting up early in the morning and going out and working out. Unfortunately, since this pandemic has started, I have grown to be lazier and lazier over the last 12 months or so now. And I can actually see the effects of not being able to work out or go running or do the activities that I used to do. Now, you might actually turn around and say, hey, you can always go out, go running, and which I still do, but I've noticed that because that there isn't a lot of energy around me, I'm usually a bit of a solo runner these days. So my motivation to do that has gone down considerably. And what I'm hoping now that, soon that I'm not vaccinated yet, but as soon as I can get that, I will be sort of venturing out and resuming a gym membership and getting back and trying to get fit again. Thank you. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much, Harun. I should mention this because we both go to the same gym, or at least we used to back in the olden days. And the gym is back open, and we have very limited slots. So I shouldn't tell you that because of the limited slots for competition.
Unfortunately, I'm not a member of that gym anymore.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. I need the slots. Excellent. All right. So with respect to that, I remember when I saw the topic that Harun put together, I remembered something about something I saw in a TV show. It was a comedy, and it was about some parents were worried about their older daughter who was, from their point of view, kind of wasting her time going from menial job to menial job. And she was quitting jobs and going to other things. They were very, very concerned about her life goals and what she was going to do with her life. And they sat her down and they said, we're worried about you. You're just doing these crappy jobs. And she says, no, I have a plan. I don't know what I want out of my life. I don't know who or what I am. And I'm going from these jobs to figure out what I want. And for example, she's like, I might be the world's greatest pastry chef, and I won't know that until I work at this donut shop for a while. And once she explained it, now the parents now felt like they had kind of missed out on opportunities in their life by just going down this boring old path that they chose. So with respect to that, I would like to ask you, when you are thinking about all the things that you can do, especially now that we've been locked down for a while, do you think that you should finish your education first or figure out what you want to do with your life first? And do you have any, what's your thoughts on the matter, both personally for you and for other people? Do I have any volunteers on the topic? Elvira, go ahead.
Thank you, Georgie. Well, I am professionally doing this, helping people to identify which pathway to take into their professional life, whether go from your education or from going to working experience and working first rather than getting education in this area. And I think actually there's no one answer for this, because everyone is exploring this on their own, and whatever is more convenient and more valuable at the moment when someone is making this decision. I think that it is the right decision to do. And it may be going to the college or going to work, and that's fine, absolutely fine for everyone. I think the difference is only if you are clear about what you want by 25. It is, then you can do much better about your future, whether to get education, more education, because by 25 we have better understanding what we want in our life, and probably get another education, because sometimes when it is a sort of a necessity because our parents told us to get the education first, we're actually wasting our money getting education without knowing what we want in our life. So I think both approaches are valid both approaches are good if they help you to identify what you want in your life by 25. Thank you. Back to you, Georgia.
Thank you very much. I would even make the argument that, some people don't know what they want by the time they're 25 or 40. So, be patient. Maybe take some time. Let's see. All right. This question kind of is about looking back, but maybe thinking about changes you want to make. What did you learn about yourself in lockdown? So what positive thing do you think came out of the lockdown with respect to learning more about yourself? Go ahead, Gautam.
Thank you. Could be a perfect question for me. I never thought about working from home. I'm a kind of person to be in person, to work in office, and meticulously doing things that has impact to what I'm promised to deliver at the end of the day. In the case of work from home, I felt I would be having a lot of distractions from friends, phone calls, unnecessary things, getting into a gaming, talking to people. I never complete my sprint. It was really hard for me to do this initially. Then I learned to know that, oh yes, I can do it. Then I could see that the productivity is increased, but my work-life balance totally messed up. In order to balance that, I was looking for what is the brainless thing I can do it. I couldn't find anything. Then I started drawing. Maybe I'm not very expert in that. Then I started, okay. I was running out of my cookies. I was waiting for 5 months. All Foods can replace that in their warehouse and I can order it. 6 months, 7 months. I didn't get that cookie from Italy. It's an recurrent checkerboard cookie. I'm gonna make it. I started doing it. It's coming out very well. Then I know that, oh, I have a inbuilt or ability to make a cookie. I know I just follow the YouTube tutorials,
follow the same exact instructions. I buy the instruments, I can make a cookie. Now I don't want to rely on whole foods. Beautiful thing I learned about in my life. I never imagined I would be good making cookies in my house. Now I'm doing it. All through Tabletop Toastmaster.
Yes, I really do think that YouTube should start a university and start giving out degrees. Everyone seems to be on it learning everything. Let's see. All right. Okay. What is the one thing that you want to change about your life after lockdown? Anybody want to give us a meticulous answer about what thing you want to change in your life after lockdown? Jose, our spiritual consultant, who talks about going on retreats and everything else. What do you want to change about your life after we get out of lockdown?
Okay, that's a interesting question. Let's go. Let's start first with what lockdown was for me. It was boring, and so after lockdown, it has to be something. I'm sure it has to be something that's not boring. So I say variety. I say variety. I discovered a few things about myself during lockdown, such as I would go to parks more. I used to really stay at home a lot and just go to work. But this time, I think I'll go more into nature after this lockdown. Um, I'm gonna emphasize more on looking for maybe group activity somehow if when it really is really open, and that's another option I would like to consider. Something like that, and maybe something that involves being creative and being outside, something like that. So I think I do have, that would be my general criteria. I think my general thoughts as far as what I would do after lockdown. I noticed also that I'll be traveling very soon, and things are starting to open up as far as for me, and my travels are catching up. And I noticed that a lot of the places around the world are changing. A lot of the hotels that I used to know, they're not there anymore, and yeah, and they're not as good anymore. So yeah, and so a lot of the restaurants and hotels. Actually, I'm going to Dallas, for example, right? And in my next trip to Dallas, I noticed that it changed. So yeah, from what I used to know. So yeah, so expect a lot of changes and be more outside. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I want to double check with our Toastmaster that we have time for maybe one more question.
I think we can do one more question, yes.
All right, so this will be our last question. Once again, kind of focusing on how life changed with lockdown. Maybe you noticed that because there were so many fewer distractions in your life, you had a chance to focus on what you might call the simple things of life. So why don't you share with us something that you had a chance to enjoy the simple things in life, or at least tell us about the last time that you can remember that you enjoyed the simple things in life. Does anybody want to share this experience with us? Dana.
So when I moved into lockdown, I also had the opportunity to move to LA during that lockdown. And although we can't do very many things inside of LA, there are a couple of key things that I have found to be just fantastic. One of those is the fact that the grocery store is 5 minutes away from my house. Now, this might sound like a simple pleasure, but let me tell you, I grew up in a little bitty town 45 minutes away from a grocery store. So this was life-changing. And along with that idea of being inside of a city there are so many other things to notice while you're here. There are people that sell flowers on the side of the road, and I have some of those flowers here, and they just make me happy every time I see them. Or I have a coworker who sometimes spontaneously sends out cards that she like writes cute notes on, and she puts, bear stickers on. She just wants to say hello. But it's one of the most precious and beautiful things to have a note spontaneously show up at your door. Or even something more simple is that during lockdown, I have the opportunity to get better at my meticulous massaging skills. And I've received significantly more massages because Brendan and I are both stuck at home. And so we've had an opportunity to really spend time together and to get better at cooking. There are a lot of things that I miss from pre-pandemic, but there are a lot of little things that I hadn't expected when we all went into lockdown that I'm really enjoying and appreciating while we're here. Thank you, Toastmaster.
All right. And with that, I will transfer control back to our general evaluator, I believe, Gautam. You could take over.
Thank you, Georgie. Without further ado, let's welcome our duty masters, Wyming, to give the timing report. How did we perform today?
Yes, Mr. General Evaluator, I've been meticulously timing everyone, so I'm going to report the time. Jose spoke for 6 minutes and 43 seconds. Zaina, 6:05. Myself, 6:43. And then in the evaluations, I spoke for 156, Gautam 257, Georgie 356. In the table topics, Haroon 129, Elvira 206, Gautam 205, Jose 156, and Zaina 142. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Wyming. Let's welcome our grammarian for today, Zaina.
Hello, fellow Toastmasters. Today we're meticulously taking notes, similar to the meticulous time taking this happening previously. For Jose, I have a note here that says, there will be later on, I will cover. It's just like a mixing that you had here of different grammatical structures. There will be later on indicates a future event, which you said it didn't flow right, if that makes sense. Generally you would just say, I'm going to cover, or I don't know. However, something that you did say is you talked about how emotions are enhanced. I really liked the way you used the alliteration there. And I thought the word enhanced was really nice in context with emotions. And your phrase at the very end that society has to support you as you support society, I thought it was a very elegant phrase. I liked the way you used it, and I really appreciated that one. For Wyming, you said, in the last several centuries, we have grew in terms. The word is grown. If the word have is in front of it, you want grown to past participle. You also said double strand of DNA split in two. I really liked that. I thought it was cool to bring up the idea of both doubles and halves in the same moment. I thought that was well done. You also used the word stimuli, which is not one that I hear people use correctly frequently. So I was impressed by that. So congrats. And then Gautam, I think you dropped the word the rather frequently while you're speaking. One example of this is you said evaluator for first speaker is Wyming instead of the evaluator for the first speaker is Wyming. Your sentence came across clearly and I wasn't confused about what you were saying. It just would flow a bit more naturally if you had those articles. Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Zaina. That was a very good grammarian report. I really like that. Let's welcome our word master for today, Georgie, because most of us use the word I hear meticulously. Thank you.
Yes, there was a lot of meticulous use of the word of the day today. I recorded Haroon, Jose, Gautam, Wyming, and Zaina, and myself. And if I missed anybody, it's because I wasn't meticulous enough, and I apologize.
Wonderful. We have a joke master for today. That's Wyming.
So Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, there's this contest of and this is the British joke. So there's an Irishman and a Scotsman and an Englishman. And so they are supposed to go into this room for a year and they are given one thing. So the Irishman got a bunch of alcohol and he went to the room. It has a whole year alcohol. Scotsman got a bunch of these Scottish liquor and he got into the room for a whole year with that Scottish liquor. And then the Englishman got a whole year's worth of cigarettes. A year later, they opened up this area. The Irishman came out, collapsed, and died. Well, he died from the alcohol. And then the Scotsman came out and collapsed and died. The Englishman came out alive. They were asking him, or he was asking, could I get a light? So that's it.
Thank you, Wami. That was a very good one. Cool. So overall, I think I'm missing our counter today.
Yep, that's me.
Thank you, Arun.
So as our counter, I counted for myself. I couldn't count much, but all I can tell you that there were a lot of ahs and ums. So yeah. Anyway, for Jose, I counted 5. For Zaina, I counted 2. Wai Ming, I counted 4. Gautam, I counted 5 as well. Georgie, I didn't catch any. Elvira, I counted 6. And I guess those were the only ones that I could keep track of. Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Harun. Just a reminder for everyone, feel free to fill up the ballot while I'm giving the evaluation for overall the meeting. It went well, and probably we may be running late by a few minutes, I guess. Just a quick correction on the ballot form. I see that still Google Forms shows like 2020 date. That's confusing. Probably we could remove the date from the Google form. So evaluators, they were they did a very good job of exceeding the expectations of the speakers. That was very well done. I really appreciate your time and effort. Let's hand over the control to our president, our Toastmaster of the day, Harun.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. I'd like to now, first of all, ask everybody to fill up their ballots. I haven't counted them, so I'm going to fill up mine as well. Hello? Yeah, okay. So before we start off, I'd like to ask any of our guests to give any comments. Elvira?
Thank you for having me. I love your meetings. Even as a guest, I get a lot of feedback. Thank you, because sometimes I am really unaware when I'm speaking, where my thoughts are, and my mouth actually sort of acting not in sync. I would say in this way. So, and thank you for the feedback, for having me, because it helps a lot to improve my way of thinking and speaking. Back to you.
Well, thank you. And so before I go on to about the presentation of awards, please fill up your ballots. Do we have any announcements? I do have an announcement that our club dues are.
I have an announcement.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. As you may know, I am a VP of Education, and I would like to congratulate Wai Ming Wok for completing his Level 5 Persuasive Influence. Let's raise our hands for Wai Ming. And also, if we were in our meeting room, I would give this to him. This is what I would give to him. Yeah, so that's his award for completing Level 5 Persuasive Influence. He gets the top trophy of Toastmaster, actually. Yes, he gets this. Thank you. Yes. And you'll get something on in the mail also congratulating him. Thank you very much. That's good. That's good, Raimi. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, the thing that I wanted to talk about was club dues. I know some of you have paid already. I have to pay as well. So please, if you are a not a new member, but if you are a renewing member, please pay your dues as quickly as possible so that we can get some credit from Toastmasters as well. Right. So that's about it. At this point, I'm going to announce the winners.
Oh, just one other
Go ahead.
thing. We do have a contest coming up, and we are still needing to get people to volunteer, especially with respect to the speech, international speech portion of it. Can people remind me which division we're in? E something, right? Is it E3?
Nope, I have no idea. I have no idea. I think we're E1 or E2.
Okay, I need to find this out right now. Basically, because we are in the middle of the speech contest time, and some areas are already having their contests. So we do
Yeah,
need
we're Division E, Area 2.
E2.
E2.
101, Division E, Area 2.
Okay.
E2. Yeah.
E2 has not yet scheduled their time for their competition, and so some areas have already scheduled their time, and others I see that basically everything's in March. So we will be having this competition for the area sometime in March, and we're going to need to make certain that we have people to represent our club in the competition. So for people who are interested, please send something to one of the officers. You do need to have 6 speeches, I believe, completed, both in the old and the new system. And that's pretty much it. Oh, and you need to be a member in good standing. So it's a really good reason to get your membership dues in soon.
Yep.
So hopefully we will get a link or something so we can send out all the information about dues too.
So we don't have a due date for it, right?
Well, things start officially April 1st, I believe. And we get brownie points somehow, like special credits if we get things done before the 15th. And we can get like some number of people signed up before the 15th. I think it's like 75% or something.
It's for the contest?
No, not with respect to the contest. It's with respect, the district tries to encourage clubs to get people to sign up and do things in advance. And so you can get like some credits to be used in the store or something.
Okay.
And I think it's usually like 75%, I think, by March 15th, but things might change this time around.
Okay. Okay, so I think we should announce the winners. So our table topics, drum roll please. A winner is Gautam.
Woo!
And our best evaluator today was Georgie. Congratulations. And our best speaker today was Wai Ming. Okay, and with that, I'd like to close off the meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Do we need to do rolls?
Yes, we do need to do rolls.
Okay. I can volunteer to be a speaker this time around, so Wai Ming gets a chance to take a breather.
Okay.
Could be Toastmaster.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to be a speaker for next week.
Thank you, Speaker Gautam. Okay, I can be evaluator.
I can also be an evaluator.
Okay, do we have a third speaker?
I'll be evaluator.
Yeah, okay. Jose.
So, and what else? Yeah, whatever else you got.
Okay, yeah.
Just to let you know, Elvira, we have an empty slot in case you'd like to give your icebreaker speech as a member of the club next week. Just to let you know.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me and having me. I will think about it. I'll join you.
Go for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
thanks.
thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And
Have a good
I'd like to close off the meeting now. So.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.